Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast, joined by the great Aaron Torres, the man who, when we get to Tucson, we assure you will have to buy no drinks here, he and his lovely wife, because of the backing Aaron Torres. Hello, Aaron Torres. How you doing, my guy?
Yeah, we you and I were texting yesterday. Is backing the Aaron officially a thing yet, or are we going to make it a thing? Is that the plan?
We are 1,000% going to make it a thing right there. And like I said, we will have welcoming home banners, everything for when you make your visit to Tucson.
Love it, dude. I'm excited. Yeah, no, I got to get back out to Tucson. It was funny. I did go for a game a few years ago. And I think I've told the story, but we did stay at that very nice resort on the outside of town. But I did go to a game, and my wife and I were out to dinner the other night, and she's like, "Do you remember that meal that we ate every single meal at the hotel?" And I couldn't remember, and then I remembered. So fond memories of Tucson, great food, great people. I saw a great game, and I can't wait to get back out and do it again soon.
All right, well, let's talk about, we're going to talk some Arizona football, some Pac-12, and some Arizona basketball, as always. But, Aaron, you hit the ball out of the park yesterday, as usual, when you texted me and you said, is this like the most Pac-12 thing ever in your last year, that you're going to have the best season this football conference has ever had? It's really remarkable.
It's remarkable. It's sad. It's sad. I mean, listen, I know it's not sad for you. You backed the Big 12 more than you backed the A, I think.
Oh, be careful there, my friend.
I think you're on the Brett Yormark Christmas card list over there. But no, I mean, listen, I get where an Arizona fan. I live in LA, and this was the refrain from USC and UCLA fans a year ago when the Big 10 move was announced, and we assumed they were the only ones leaving. It's been disjointed, it's been disorganized, it's been poorly run. But the sad thing is the quality of play on the football field, at least, I don't think it's going to translate to basketball, unfortunately, but the quality of play on the football field is through the roof. And somebody asked me today why that is. And I just think, it's a lot of schools finally being committed, the right guys at the right times. I would include Jed Fish in that mix. But, obviously Deion Sanders speaks for himself, Kalen DeBoer, whoever, you go on and on down the list, and just a commitment to football from a place like USC, UCLA, where I think that in the past they thought they could get by on name only. So it's been fun to watch, especially for somebody who lives in this time zone that gets mocked mercilessly by my friends all over the country. It's been fun, but it's a little sad too. I think it's a little sad.
Here's the key to me is it all comes down to a lot of times, I think, the coach. When you look in the Pac-12, when it comes to football, there is not one program where you say that's clearly a guy that they can't win with there. In basketball, which we'll get to, there's a few Jared Hasses in the conference. But when it comes to football, though, across the board, these are all good football coaches right here, or at least ones that, even your Kenny Dillingham's, somebody that you have a lot of optimism about going forward right there. So I think that's a big part of it, because we've watched Pac-12 football in the past where you had a Kevin Sumlin or you had a Herm Edwards. We can just stick in the Southwest where you had a Carl Durrell, where you're like, this thing isn't going anywhere. That to me is the real difference right there in the conference.
Real quick, how do you think Carl Durrell feels watching this whole situation? They're literally, and I get they have one of the greatest football players of all time as their head coach, but they're literally they are their own news cycle. I think they're the biggest story in sports right now. First Take was there this week. College Game Day was there. So it's not even just a college football thing. When First Take shows up, when Michael Irvin's on the sidelines, when whatever, Yeah, what do you think Carl Durrell's doing right now? Well, how do you think he's handling all this?
He's realizing he's not Deion Sanders. That's what I think he is. And I got to give Deion a lot of credit here. I thought I loved the hire because I'm always of the opinion that, if you're a school like Colorado, if you're a school like California in basketball, you have nothing to lose there. What, you're going to stink if it doesn't work out? Well, you've been doing that for the last 2 decades. What Deion has been able to do, when you watch Deion on the sideline, he doesn't come off as overbearing. Now, granted, I mean, he's got his antics and whatnot, but he feels like he's always in control of the situation right there. And that to me is something that I don't think a lot of people maybe properly gave him the credit for. But you watch Deion right there. Deion gets it. In the grand scheme of things, Deion clearly gets it. No doubt. And, I mean, I had watched all this stuff. I'm just a sports junkie, sports nerd. So I had watched all the documentaries. So I thought he was probably a better football coach than he was given credit for. I think it was 22-3 in his last 2 years at Jackson State, and he had the blueprint there. But I did think, listen, I thought it'd be a little bit more of a process. And I thought, Jackson State, he can recruit a caliber player that maybe most of his competition can't. Right. Turns out, there are certainly guys on his roster that would play anywhere in the country, but Shedeur Sanders is better than we thought. And I think, really, I'm not a scheme expert by any stretch, but I think they play to their strengths, get the ball out of his hands quick. They know the limitations of the offensive line. So it's been the story of college football for the last 2 weeks. But what I said on my show today, Mike, was that where can they find Aaron Torres, by the way? I was remiss in the opening right there. I do apologize. Where can they find the great Aaron Torres?
Yeah, Aaron Torres podcast is, this time of year, it's a lot of college football, much like this show. And then we'll do some basketball. By the way, we are selling a little Arizona merch at the Aaron Torres Media Store. So AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. Little Arizona football shirt. I meant to actually bring one and kind of hold it up, but I kind of forgot. But anyway, so what I was saying was and listen, I work for Fox Sports. I have no affiliation with the TV network, but it's one thing for Fox Sports to be there in week 1, to broadcast in week 1. In week 3, they're there, they're there, and College Game Day is there because Colorado isn't just a good story, they're a good team as well. So I think that's all part of it, and I think that's worth mentioning as well. If it was week 1, it'd be one thing, but 2 very nice wins to open the season. By the way, two wins over Power 5 teams, which I think not enough people are giving credit for. You look at all kind of the national stats, like Shedeur Sanders is, I think, second in passing nationally. He's done it against 2 Power 5 teams. So I'm rambling, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's been a really fun story, really cool story to follow, but they're backing it up on the field as well.
Speaking of backing it up, we've watched a lot of bad football here in the desert, a lot of bad football over the years. And Jedd Fisch, I got to say, watching Arizona against Mississippi State, I came away thinking that Arizona was as good as Mississippi State. Obviously you turn the ball over left and right, but this is the first time, Aaron, in a long time that I think that there feels like there's an upward trajectory at Arizona that you haven't had in the past. I mean, you look at it, you've got a T-Mac at wide receiver who is kind of the forgotten 5-star wide receiver that, kind of reestablished himself. It's a loaded offense. The defense is better. This team doesn't stink, and that is a big step forward right there.
1,000%. I was in studio getting ready for my show during that Mississippi State game.
Was it in this studio?
No. I was in a real studio, Fox Sports Radio studios. No disrespect to my fake rental house background that I have right here. I was in the Fox Sports Radio studios, and I made them turn that game on when we were getting ready to go on our show on air. So I think Mississippi State, this guy Arnett, I think it's career suicide to go away from the air raid, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, I was impressed by Arizona State. And I think the thing that stood out is the depth chart. First of all, the history way better than I do, the depth chart better than I do. And certainly Arizona has some holes that need fixing going forward. But athlete for athlete, I didn't really see a ton of difference. Now, they were really fast and athletic up front. They gave Delora some problems, but, Arizona had dudes making plays. Arizona towards the end was giving Delora time in the pocket. So I'm with you I know you want to come out of there with a victory, but you also just went into an SEC stadium in overtime, frankly, probably outplayed them and very easily could have won that game.
And again, when you're taking over for a guy like Kevin Sumlin, I mean, you talk about taking over for kind of the bottom of college football right there. What he's been able to do, what Jedd Fisch has been able to do in 2 or 3 years has been nothing short of astounding. And we had Elijah Rushing on yesterday, the #1 rated defensive end in the country from Sal Point. And this to me is just kind of the difference is that when Bijan Robinson was at Sal Point, he wasn't even looking at Arizona, even though Kevin Sumlin's son.
I've heard Arizona wasn't even looking at him. I heard Kevin Sumlin made no effort to even drive across town to see him. That was the whispers.
And Sumlin's whole thing was, well, we can't get him. Jedd Fisch's thing is, you know what? Until you sign, we are going to try to get you. And that is just when you're at a place like Arizona, and I think ASU too, you have to want to be there. And that is a big part of it. You can't view it as I'm going to be here for, a year and then bounce. That might be your ultimate goal, but you can't approach it like that. You've got to really work from the grassroots. And that's something, like I said, that Jedd Fisch has done. And I got to really tip my cap to him right there.
No, zero doubt. And, it's funny to go back to the hiring a few years ago. And I, like many people, didn't really see it, didn't really understand it. But I do think there is always something to two things. One, as you said, a guy that wants to be there. Like you said, this wasn't a bounce back guy. This wasn't a guy on his way up. This is a guy that genuinely wanted to be there. And then I think the other thing which really impressed me is obviously knowing that he had kind of bounced back from college and the pros back and forth is I thought entering the portal NIL era, he has clearly had a very detailed game plan in recruiting, that's always the thing, right? I mean, go back to Deion Sanders. I mean, these guys that come from the pro background, especially at this moment in time in college sports, you always worry, are they going to get the portal? Are they going to get NIL? Are they going to put in the work? Are they going to get on a million Zooms in January? So that's the only point I'm trying to make. And that's what's been impressive to me is wanted to be there and then clearly has had a game plan as to how he wants to build it out, not just local recruiting, but obviously the portal, so much success with Cowing and with Delora, and you go on and on down the list. You guys know the whole roster. You don't need me to tell you, but that's been the impressive part to me.
All right, now let's look at the conference then a little bit. Which teams do you view as national title contenders right here in the conference? Do you look at, is it kind of that group of three right there where you've got USC, Oregon, Washington? Where does Aaron Torres look at right there?
Yeah, national title contenders, a little, it's a loaded conversation. I guess in theory, USC could probably beat a Georgia and a Michigan back-to-back, a Georgia and a Florida State, whatever. I don't think Washington is a national championship contender. Oregon, I still don't know how to feel about Oregon. I like him. I still have that Bo Nix PTSD of I feel like, he's going to do something dumb, but he doesn't. I mean, he led him to victory on the road in Lubbock last week. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
Are we at the point where Bo Nix is good? I know that he's, yes, it just feels weird to say, but Bo Nix is good, isn't it?
Bo Nix is good. No, he's good. He's like a reliable, trustworthy quarterback. And even like early to mid last year, you really couldn't say that. Like there were still some Auburn Bo Nix that came out here and there. And for whatever reason, whether the coaching was that bad at Auburn, whether it's that good at Oregon, whether he has better teammates, whatever it is, So anyway, to answer your question, USC has been impressive. Now, let me say this, Mike. This is a big take of mine. Can we pump the brakes a little bit with like the USC defense is so improved? Like everyone's, they're playing real defense this year. It's like Stanford has like 3 players left from last year, and they can't replace anybody in the portal because it's Stanford. Their depth is just abysmal. Correct. And Nevada weren't they a home underdog to an FCS team last year?
Yes.
These are the teams or last week, these are the teams that were pumping up because USC was able to shut them down. Can we see them play somebody else? Can we see them hold Oregon or even Arizona? Yeah, you hold Arizona to 3 points and you win 41-3. I'll call you a national championship contender. But I think it's a little early. Like I've heard a lot of that the USC defense really turning a corner. It's like, let's see him against somebody that has like a quarterback that can complete a pass more than 6 yards forward,
Well, like you said, people are making it out like they stomped out Washington or something. I mean, if they play Washington, they play Oregon, and that defense sticks up, we'll give them some credit right there. But that's still a ways off there, Aaron.
I will say too, you asked about Pac-12 national championship playoff stuff. it's going to be so vintage Pac-12 that the league is so good that everyone's going to beat each other. Like you look at like Texas, like I think Texas is good, but I don't think they're that good, but they're going to be a double-digit favorite in every single game that they play, probably the rest of the year. Maybe Oklahoma's not double digits, but they'll be probably a 5, 6, 7-point favorite. I only bring it up because you look at USC having to go to Oregon, Washington at home. They play Notre Dame, which obviously isn't a Pac-12 game, but Washington all of a sudden, I don't know, you just go down the list. It's like there's no way all of these teams are getting through this with 0 or 1 losses. I just don't believe it. So I just bring it up to say I think the Pac-12 may have one of the 4 best teams by the end of the year, but I don't know if they're going to get in because in true Pac-12 fashion, they're going to be so good they're going to beat each other up.
Well, and the thing is, too, is they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Like with the SEC, you're always going to get 2 teams in, or you're going to be able to get a team in with 2 losses, where the Pac-12 isn't going to have that, even though you probably have, 3 of the top 10, 11 teams in the country, something like that. But you don't have that Georgia credibility. You don't have that Alabama credibility. And I think that's, like you said, I think that's what's going to hold them back a little bit.
Well, USC's got to beat Notre Dame. I think most, Washington cannot lose to Michigan, to coachless Michigan State this week. So those are the games you got to win. And so far, the Pac-12 is largely done at Wazoo last week, Oregon. And I know those aren't like needle moving wins, but those are games in the past that the Pac-12 has found a way to lose. Like Oregon, I have seen lose that game a million times where they're like a 6-point favorite, but it's weird and things go against them on the road. So positive that they are getting those wins, at least as of right now.
All right, interesting question here from T-Burns826 for Aaron. He says, Fish said the UW game is almost sold out. With no Texas or OU, do you see filling Arizona Stadium becoming more difficult with the move to the Big 12 because there are no football brands? It's an interesting question. What do you think, Aaron?
I mean, you know the fan base better than me, but I'll say this. The thing that I have learned about realignment is that when teams leave, like new brands emerge. Like somebody's got to win the Big 12.
Right.
And so, I'm trying to think of an example. Like I'll give you a basketball example, right? When did Villanova and Jay Wright ascend like a rocket ship? It was when the Big East broke off and went basketball only. They weren't that Villanova. And so when Syracuse and UConn and Louisville and everybody left, there was this huge void that had to be filled, and Villanova filled it. So, if Kansas State is a top 10 team because somebody's got to win those games in the Big 12, then it's going to be a big game. So better than me. Like I don't know what regular attendance is like, but listen, if you're selling out for Washington, I mean Washington's a top 10 team, but I don't see them as like some incredible rival of Arizona. It's just that they're a good team, right?
Well, right. And you look at last year, TCU, I mean, people bring up that, they got smashed by Georgia in the national title game, but I would also mention that they also beat Michigan to get there. I mean, people kind of forget Texas that one as well.
Oklahoma. They destroyed Oklahoma, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, so they beat some good teams. All right, we got a limited time with Aaron, so we got to get to some basketball here with the great Aaron Torres. Aaron, I am of the opinion that this is going to be Tommy Lloyd's best team. I don't believe that you might not have quite the top-end talent when you had a Benedict Mathurin, but I think when you're looking at 1 through 7, 1 through 8, with the roster overhaul that you had, Kylan Boswell, Jaden Bradley, Caleb Love, obviously Pella Larson, Keshad Johnson, your guy, by the way, Keshad Johnson, Umar Ballo, some incoming players. This is a much tougher team than last year's team, and I think it's going to be shown out there on the court. I really do.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me a little bit is the shooting, but they're going to play so fast, and they have the potential to be so much better defensively. And like, the thing that I've learned watching all levels of basketball, obviously, you and I mostly watch college, but it's the same at the NBA, is like when you just have guys that can just get to the rim and get a basket and you don't have to draw anything up for them, that's such an advantage. And Arizona has 3 of those guys, 4 of those guys. I mean, Keshad Johnson can't just get to the rim, but you put him one-on-one in kind of that mid-post, like he's going to embarrass a lot of people in the Pac-12 because the Pac-12 basketball is not Pac-12 football, as we've previously discussed. So, Caleb Love, Jaden Bradley, Kylan Boswell, in any given moment can get to the rim, can get to the foul line, can create offense where it doesn't exist. And I just think having those guys are so valuable. So, yeah, I'm really excited. And by the way, really quick, shout out to Tommy Lloyd for the out-of-conference schedule that they've put together. Now, I know part of it is probably they know how bad the Pac-12 is going to be and they need to pick up quality wins somewhere. But, the Michigan State game, it's, about an hour from where I live. I'm hoping to go. I don't know if I'll be able to go because of the holiday, but obviously at Duke,
You got Alabama, got FAU.
Yes. So,
I mean,
point being, credit to him because, listen, I think we all as fans just enjoy those games. And so I think it'll be a lot of fun to kind of follow this team. And like I said, I think that's the thing that stands out. The guys that can create for themselves, Arizona's just going to have a ton of them. And I think it's going to play in very nicely for them.
You mentioned Keshad Johnson. I wanted to get back to him for a second because you've obviously watched him a lot. The thing that really stuck out to me about
I see Steve's comment in
there. For sure. Oh, dude, it goes without saying at this point. The thing with Keshad Johnson, though, especially watching him on their overseas trip, is that Arizona didn't have anybody like him last year as far as just being that physical specimen that could dunk in traffic, that could run the court. I know that he averaged 7 and 5 at San Diego State. He's going to get 10 plus just by running the court at Arizona this year.
Oh, yeah. The stats at San Diego State mean nothing. I'll tell you a funny story, and it all played out publicly, so I don't feel bad talking about it. So Lamont Butler, who obviously hit that shot to send them to the national championship game, one of the reporters kind of put out an article where they quoted his dad, and his dad was talking about the offers that they had after the season to leave and and give out money. The NIL offers that were offered to them, and they politely declined. He's back at San Diego State. Why I bring it up is because it came. What ended up happening was I shared the article, and then an idiot college basketball writer said, "Well, it's clear the dad is just making up NIL numbers. Who would offer that to a guy that averaged like 8 points per game last year?" Right. And so first of all, the dad saw it. I know the dad. I've known the dad for years. Called the dad a liar. He wasn't happy. The mom got involved. She wasn't happy. The reporter who reported it and quoted the dad wasn't happy. I won't name the kid, but I'm not a big fan of that guy. Anyway, I bring it up because stats at San Diego State don't matter because it's a program where you go in knowing that you have to sacrifice minutes for the good of the team. And they're going to play 10, 11, 12 guys in some given years, especially last year because they had a lot of guys return with the extra COVID year. And so when you look at somebody like Keshad Johnson, Lamont Butler, whomever, don't use their stats because they were only playing 27, 28 minutes a game where you'll probably play 34, 35 at Arizona. It was funny, and I think I've told this story, but when Keshad Johnson was being recruited, I saw some people in Kentucky who obviously was one of his finalists like, well, he's comfortable coming off the bench. No, he's leaving San Diego State because he wants to play more. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Fifth-year guy, got his degree, go ball out in the best position for you. That was all a long-winded way of me saying don't look at the stats. That's not how San Diego State operates. They play 9, 10, 11 guys. It got them to a Final Four. It worked for them last year. But him only averaging 8 points per game or 9 points per game is not reflective of what he is capable of as a basketball player.
Yeah, it's not even close to that as well because, like I said, I mean, when you're playing games in the 40s, it's just different than when you're playing games in the 80s right there. So that's going to be fun. We had Jack Murphy on a while back, associate head coach. And he
all
said,
the big heavy hitters, man.
You don't like to brag. We go from Jack Murphy to Aaron Torres. That's what we do around
Elijah Rushing, dude.
Elijah Rushing, exactly. But he said that he believes that Keshad Johnson is a guy that has NBA potential.
I agree.
And he said, you look at teams like the Miami Heat, they are going to love somebody like him. He said he probably won't be a star, but he said, I could easily see him picking out a niche for the next 6, 7, 8 years in the league.
Well, the thing about Keshad Johnson, and there's probably some of this with Caleb Love, is Keshad Johnson, if he was a 38% three-point shooter, not only would he be in the NBA right now, and he wouldn't even be in college, I think he would have been in the NBA 2 years ago. Like I think he's like a 2 and done because the physical gifts are there. The limitation is shooting, and he does everything else well. He defends, he rebounds, he's tough. He's all the stuff that you already mentioned, just doesn't shoot the ball well enough for the NBA right now. Now, I think with an expanded role, listen, this is my bold prediction on September 15th, 2023, the 2024 NBA draft. I believe Keshad Johnson will be one of 60 players drafted that night. I don't know if I haven't seen any mock draft boards, but I bet in an expanded role, people will see how good he is, and somebody is going to give him an opportunity, as you just said.
All right, Aaron. Before
that comment, by the way, 14-7 sounds about right for Keshad Johnson with this team.
Totally agree with you. All right, Aaron, before we let you go now, we got to talk a little bit about Arizona then. Arizona hoops in the Big 12, which is all kinds of fascinating for me because to me, it's the best basketball conference in the country and maybe the most invigorated fan base. It's going to be a lot different than going to Stanford, Cal, Washington State, Oregon State. Every single game is going to be a road test. And quite frankly, I'm more than okay being 28-9 or 27-10 in the Big 12 as opposed to 35-4 in the Pac-12 where you don't really play anybody. That's where I'm at, Aaron.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is a bummer of realignment, and I know that it worked out well for Arizona, and I am excited to see Arizona at Fog Allen Fieldhouse, vice versa, all those teams coming to Tucson. But the Big 12, because of some of the football additions, they're going to have some real dead weight in basketball, including, by the way, unfortunately, that school right down the road from you guys. But, Central Florida, we'll see.
UTEP's going to really struggle. ASU is going to struggle. Utah's going to struggle, and Colorado's probably not going to be great.
Yes, and I think even like a Cincinnati, like I need to see it to believe it. Like they've been down for 4, 5, 6 years, whatever. Right. So no, but I am excited though. I am excited, and I saw, I remember during the summer you did a poll of what's the best arena in the Big 12. I think maybe outside of Fog Allen Fieldhouse. I don't remember if you included it or not, but it made me realize how many good ones there are in that league. I mean, Texas Tech is unbelievable. BYU is, 22,000 people for big games. I mean, they can pack that place. I mean, that's ask Tommy Lloyd about it. That's the only place that Gonzaga ever lost in the WCC. So, Kansas State, the Octagon of Doom. I think we talked about that last time. Whenever there's a place called the Octagon of Doom, that's a tough place to go get a win.
Iowa State too.
Iowa State, Hill and Magic. Yes. Yeah, you got to deal with Magic and Doom on one road trip. So that's what I'm saying is like, so listen, from the Arizona basketball perspective, I am very, very, very excited because it will, I will miss the Pac-12, and I think most people will in some way, shape, or form, but stuff evolves, stuff changes. And like I said, there is so much dead weight in that basketball league. Schools not living up to their expectations. Then you add before this summer of realignment, USC and UCLA are leaving. I can understand why Arizona was not hesitant when the opportunity presented itself to leave.
All right, Aaron, before you sign off, let the people know where they can find you. Also, you got any of those cool Dan Patrick, Doug Gottlieb fill-in type things going on anytime soon?
No, once football starts, they listen, the big boys can't be lounging in a cabin in Reno like Mike Luke does all summer long. So the big boys are back. Dan Patrick's back, Gottlieb, all that. I want to ask you, now that I'm thinking about it, we were just talking about the realignment. Do you think if Oregon and Washington had wanted to stay, that the league would have stayed together, or was Arizona out? And if you can't share because of personal relationships or whatever, I'm just curious because like it seemed like for a second it felt like it might come back. It might.
I believe that Arizona was always out. I believe the fact that they applied for Big 12 membership that Thursday night basically made things easier for Washington and Oregon to be able to bounce. Obviously that Friday morning. But that I believe that was always going to happen. And a big reason why though, too, is that when you've got something, Arizona is different in that Arizona is a national brand, but it's different. It's a national brand because of basketball. And what you have to have is you have to have that entity being exposed to the nation right there. And it took a little bit of a hit, obviously, with the Pac-12. But if you were going to be 100% on streaming, that was something that Bobby Robbins said multiple times was just not going to be good enough right there. Sure. And I think that's what it was. I think between Arizona and Colorado was kind of the same way where they said, we've got to see numbers. And with Arizona and Colorado, the Pac-12 wasn't able to fulfill what both those schools wanted. But yeah, I believe that Arizona would have bounced either way.
But Michael Crow called it a revolutionary TV concept. So what does that mean? What does that mean and all that?
Not only that, Aaron, he said that there's the ability with this streaming to be able to capture the moment and then play it back when you want.
Oh, cool. That sounds good.
I bet Aaron, are you aware of this?
I saw just in passing some of his comments. I know you probably spent like 20 minutes breaking him down, but didn't he call it like a Star Trek-like experience or something like that?
Yes, exactly. And it was just clear that, and listen, I mean, when you're a president, you got a billion different things going on. I get it. But when you have no clue what actual streaming is, when you have no clue what an actual media package is, these aren't the people that you want running these, making these decisions. And I know President Robbins gets beat up a lot because people say, oh, he's front and center at all the games. I'll tell you what, Aaron, I would much rather have a president that is front and center at all of these games, who cares about sports, than somebody who doesn't even understand what streaming is.
No, totally fair. Totally fair. And it, like I said a minute ago, it's sad that it happened the way that it did, but it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for gross mismanagement for a decade plus now, maybe longer. And the other thing too, like, we could say it's sad. It wasn't going to be the same without USC and UCLA, obviously, especially from a basketball perspective, but even from a non-basketball perspective, it wasn't going to be. So it's sad. RIP. Do you still have all the Oregon State fans tuning in, or did they kind of
we still have a couple of them. I got to say, man, I was wrong on these people, the Oregon State fans. There's a lot more of them than I thought there were.
Sure.
I thought they were like the SMU fan that was kind of out there in like theory, but nobody really knows. But Oregon State fans, they're out there. And in actuality, I definitely feel bad for them, because it's a tough spot, because you got a pro football program now that's on the ascendancy, and you don't have a home. I mean, that's where it's difficult for sure. But all right, Aaron, get out of here. I know you got a 1 o'clock phone call, but again, appreciate you, my guy. And, make sure your phone's charged. You'll be getting my texts. Back
the AA round, baby. Let's go. It's a thing.
My man, the great Aaron Torres from Fox Sports. Appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, thanks again. All right, now let's get to a few of these reads right here, and then we're going to digest everything that the great Aaron Torres said right there, because there were some very good things to say. But first, DraftKings. Here's the deal: DraftKings is back. Football is back. Get in on all the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code PHNX to sign up. New customers can bet $5 and take home $200 instantly in bets. That's how cool it is. Only a DraftKings Sportsbook app with code PHNX. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800 or visit www.s1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 4679369. In Connecticut, help is available for your gambling problem. Again, 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus, varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms and responsible gaming sources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions do apply. All right, everybody, it's time to back the A right here. Arizona is up. Arizona is going to beat UTEP. I'm not breaking any news right there, but I would get on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and that is going to be my DraftKings pick of the week, by the way. I am back in the A. I am picking Arizona to cover that 17. Now it's 18. T. Burns, a very smart person right there, hopping in there, doing as is Chef Duarte. Check it out right there, guys. But again, that is also my DK pick of the week. All right. I thought Aaron made some interesting points. Well, obviously, Aaron made some interesting points from a national perspective, too, about Arizona with Jedd Fisch, and that Aaron was doing his studio work. And, when you're a big name like Aaron Torres, you are going to, you got to be aware of everything. And Aaron Torres said when he was on the set right there, hey, let's put on that Arizona game. Let's be honest here. Aaron backs the A. We know that Aaron backs the A, but there's probably never been a time in the recent years when Aaron is in studio saying, make sure you let's put that Arizona game on, because Arizona went toe to toe with Mississippi State right there. That's how exciting it is. And that's what I think is fun about this entire endeavor, is that Arizona is in a spot where you've got to watch them now because of Jedd Fisch. Now, as far as Arizona goes, the big thing in this game is I need no turnovers. We know that Jayden de Laura, we know what he's capable of. He's capable of a lot of really, really good things. He can air the ball out down the field. He's got a pretty good feel for when to move around in the pocket, but he's got to eliminate some of those turnovers. That's what we need that to stop. And honestly, he should be able to, because he's good enough. If I wasn't, if he wasn't good enough, then I would sit here and tell you, listen, this is just who it is. Like, you put me out there, I'm probably going to turn the ball over a lot because I stink and I'm not capable of doing anything more. When you put out Jayden de Laura, though, who's got a cannon for an arm, who's been successful at the college level, he should be able to make some plays out there. and not turn the ball over to the extent that he has. Because let's be honest here, against Mississippi State, Arizona would have won that game without some of those really bad turnovers. All right, now let's get to some of these questions, some of these points right here. We're going to hop all over the board. T-Burns 826. Obviously, Arizona MSU is better TV than Bama UT. Well, it goes without saying. Let's be honest here. I mean, when you back the A, that's going to be your mentality. Angel C right here. Does the commit from Emmanuel Stephen make us the number one class next year? Yes. If Arizona were to get Emmanuel Stephen, it would make them the number one class in the country, I believe, with Carter Bryant, Jamari Phillips, Emmanuel Stephen, all on the same AAU team, by the way, right there. All right. Now back to football. And no false starts or offsides. Yes. That, and more of that. No false starts, no offsides. Arizona is much better now, but it's not good enough to not beat itself. So when you go into a game, you got to say, all right, we can't be doing the dumb stuff out there. And I think the Jetfish gets that. Also, we need to talk about the offensive line and the running game here in a second, because I believe in games like this. These are really kind of proving point games right here. But first, Shady Rays. All right, now, you might see our esteemed producer, Damon. Damon is a much cooler person than I am. This goes without saying. A big reason why, though, is that Damon, when he rocks his Shady Rays, looks much cooler than I do. It helps me a little bit, but it doesn't help me enough. That's why Damon is the man. Jacob is the man. All of our esteemed producers, exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code PHNX for 50% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Okay, now let's get to a couple of these questions here. Steve Hernandez. Can Fifita be better than JDL? Can we beat SC and Utah with Fifita? I don't know. But I do believe, I have a feeling that when JDL does hit the field, don't know when that's going to be, that he's not coming out. And Sheer and I talked about that earlier in the week, that there's just something about him. I get that he's 5'8". We've never seen really as somebody at the Power 5 level be able to wing the ball around 30 times a game. But when you watch him, he commands the respect of his players. He commands the respect of his team. And he's got all the physical attributes. I know that's weird to say about somebody who's 5'8", but he can move around the pocket. He's probably got the biggest arm out of all the quarterbacks there. And he just kind of gets football. And that's where I think it's exciting about that possibility. All right, now, a couple other questions right here. When was the last time Arizona had a number 1 recruiting class? Now, I'm going off the top of my head right here. There's a couple possibilities right here. Off the top of my head, I think the first one possibility would have been when you had Mike Bibby, Steven Jackson, Eugene Edgerson, because you had Bibby, who was the second best player in the country behind Kobe Bryant. Steven Jackson was a McDonald's kid. Eugene was a top 40 guy. That might have been in the discussion. Then after that, you had the Shakur, Ndie things, because you had 2 top 5 players right there. That might have been in the spot. Also, I think the one where you had Caleb Tarzewski, Grant Jarrett, and Brandon Ashley, Gabe York, that might have been in the discussion as well. All right, Tony Jones. Tony Jones, I agree with you on this, Tony. I think Jed's done a great job here overhauling the talent. You look at the roster, but the only guy on this team that I believe probably shouldn't come out of the game at any point at the receiver spot is T-Mac. T-Mac's a different animal entirely, but I believe that Kevin Green should get in the game. I also believe that AJ Jones should get in the game. I'd like to see 5 wide receivers getting out there because they're good enough. Now, if these players weren't good enough, I'd say, whatever, you got to ride with those 3. But I've seen Kevin Green multiple times in live action where he's just really good. AJ Jones he's a physical freak. We saw it in the spring game last year where he got the 86-yard touchdown and outran everybody. I would love to see both those dudes in the game. I believe their time is coming. I would just like to see them be able to get in the game right now, and a little bit more Kean Burnett as well at the tight end spot. Again, I'm nitpicking because Jed Fish has obviously done a really good job. But Tony, don't worry. I'm back in the AJ right there and Kevin Green. I'd like to see them both hit the field a little bit. Now, against UTEP, I think Arizona's going to smash UTEP. Now, you might say that Mike doesn't know what he's talking about, and generally you're right. But I do believe that Arizona is going to smoke UTEP. A big reason why is that you're coming off that frustrating game. I don't believe that UTEP is that good. And honestly, I think the offensive line just needs to be able to exert itself. You don't need to get fancy here. You don't need to be able to do anything that you can't do, but you should be able to get out there and make, I think, just run the ball. When you got 2 first-round picks at tackle, when you got Raymond Polito coming back in as well, then you've also got Wendell Moe, Josh Baker. Give Michael Wiley the ball. Give Rayshon Speedy Luke the ball. All of those give Pham the ball as well. Another guy, Tony, that we need to see a little bit more of. But this is the game also to get those players some action. Get AJ Jones in the game. Get Kevin Green in there. That's what I would definitely like to see. Let's see here. Cosmic Contrarian. Williams isn't coming to Arizona to sit behind Fifita or Dorman. I get it, but nobody's going anywhere to sit behind somebody. Dorman wasn't coming here to sit behind Fifita. All I'm saying is this, and this is called a tease. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, OGs, the tease to OGs. Get it? Check out our friends at OGs Brands for yourself and try one or a few of their many delicious flavors. Check out them across all socials at OGs Brands and online at ogsbrands.com to find them at a local dispensary near you. You must be 21 years or up to enjoy responsibly. Okay, now, Williams isn't coming to Arizona to sit behind Fifita or Dorman, but again, nobody's coming anywhere to sit behind anybody. Braden Dorman was a 4-star quarterback. I don't believe that he thought that he was going to sit behind Fifita either, but all I'm saying is this. The reason that I believe that Fifita is going to get that first crack is that right now he's the second best quarterback on the team. And not only is he the second best quarterback on the team, he's got a lot of credibility here. And that credibility, I think you need to pay attention to. Because again, when you got T-Mac, T-Mac's here because Noah Fifita is here. Kean Burnett is here because Jed Fish and Noah Fifita are here. Jacob Manu, a little bit of a different story, but the dude has ultimate credibility. I've talked with some of the wide receivers' parents, and they all say that there's just something about him that you don't really know, but when he hits the field, it's just a little bit different. It shouldn't make sense the way it makes sense, but it just does. And that's why I do believe that he is going to be that first guy he's going to be that first guy. And I believe he'll be the opening game starter next year. You can go from there. You also got to remember too, that Damon Williams is going to be a freshman. He's a great player. Can do a lot of different things, obviously, but he's still a freshman. That's something that you got to figure out. And you got to take into account, and he's going to be on the little bit of the light side because he's about 5'10", 170. I would like to see a redshirt year for Damon Williams. And again, I've seen Damon Williams up close. I saw him against Sal Point. He's a fantastic football player. And just like Eric Zimmerman, the great Eric Zimmerman says, logjam at the QB position is a nice problem to have. It is an excellent problem to have. We like log jams with good players, not with bad players. We don't need 4 Mike Lukes out there competing at quarterback. We need 4 good players. That's what Arizona has right now. Also, Will. Does it make me a bad person if I prefer QT over Circle K? No, but you need to go to Circle K. Circle K has got better gas prices right there. I have been around all of Tucson. I can assure you that Circle K, especially the one on like 36th and Campbell, best gas prices in Tucson right there. Check it out. Also, Jose L. Roman Jr., Fifita, Burnett, T-Mac chemistry would be insane. I agree with that. I would love to see it. And again, sometimes things sometimes barriers are meant to be broken. Nobody thought that we would see 5'10" quarterbacks in the NFL. Guess what? We see 5'10" quarterbacks. Just means that we're going to have to go down maybe a little bit, maybe even a little bit more right there. But also, now, Saturday Neon. Speaking of cool stuff, look at that A behind my shoulder right here. That's Saturday Neon. That's Saturday Neon for you. And again, support these people, support local. They're doing all kinds of good stuff. Go to SaturdayNeon.com and use code PHNX for 10% off your order today. Free shipping for orders over $200. You can get that same A back there, and when it lights up, it is majestic right there. All right, now, Eric Zimmerman, or T. Burns, is very funny. And he says, the QB logjam of the great days of Nick Costa, Richard Kovalchuk, and Chris Heavner. When Chris Heavner was clearly the best quarterback option out of all of those, that's a bad thing. By the way, you also forgot Ryan O'Hara in there, my friend, the 6'6" Ryan O'Hara. Then John Rattay came in after that. Okay, now, Eric Zimmerman, this is what we like to see. I'll be back in the A this weekend coming down from Gilbert. We appreciate you. You deserve a homecoming welcome right there. Eric, that's awesome. All right, Cosmic Contrarian. All right, what do we got here? You know Jed wants to be at Arizona because he interviewed for the job twice a few years earlier. Yes, I think that Jed wants to be at Arizona, and honestly, he's been able to get the players that he's wanted. I mean, just look at Arizona right now and what they've been able to do, and it's pretty impressive stuff. He's overhauled this roster totally. When we're talking about how players like Kevin Green and AJ Jones aren't on the field, these guys, under Kevin Sumlin, these would be your number 1, number 2 wide receivers right there. Now, again, I believe they should get on the field, but that just goes to show you, though, what he's been able to do in a short time. And again, Jed Fish gets it at the end of the day, just like Damon gets it. And it's just a good thing right there. I will be back in the A this weekend. Cosmic Contrarian, we like this. Section 26, very, very good stuff right there. I will be looking down on everybody from the press box. But honestly, and bothering Shearer the entire time. But honestly, on a serious note, though, you guys are all fantastic. Really appreciate all of you. Jose Roman, would Jed be able to mold any other program to his own liking like he's done at Arizona? Why leave? He calls every shot. Agrees. I'll totally agree. Ryan O'Hara, T-Burns 826. Ryan O'Hara was in a class of his own since he was a multi-sport star on the court. Fair enough. Let's see here. Does Jaden Rashad? I am probably going to go down to Bear Down Friday right there and mingle with the peeps. By the way, eating a Del Taco burger. I'll probably bring one up for Brian Jeffries again. Jed Keck, you're wrong about this one. Jed might go 5 wins this season. 6 would be a miracle. No, I disagree with you, Keck. Arizona is winning 6, and when they get to the bowl game, they are going 7. That is called backing the A to the fullest. All right, now, let's see here. Angel C. Does Jaden Rashada start at Arizona over JDL? No, I do not believe so. Right now, JDL is a better quarterback than Jaden Rashada. I also don't know that Jaden Rashada will even be starting at ASU against Arizona. Wink, wink. But on that note, appreciate all of you as always. I will back the A. Appreciate you guys. All right. We're going to be back with you tomorrow. Post-game show late, obviously, but with all these people back in the A, we will be here bringing you all of the energy. All right. For the great Damon behind the scenes, I am Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast. We'll be back on the post-game show tomorrow. Big thanks for the great Aaron Torres, and we will talk with you soon.